The whispers about Kang Jae-sung 12 inches weren't just gossip. They were warnings. The kind that made women in Hanseong City running. But when Nyla Brooks walked into his office that morning, her skin glowing under harsh fluorescent lights, she didn't flinch. She winked, actually winked, and said, "I can handle anything you throw at me." Something inside him, something that had been dormant for years, shifted. His investors wanted someone pale and obedient. Someone quiet. Someone who knew her place. But he chose her. The one woman who didn't run. The glass towers of the Southern Towers district reflected the morning sun as Nyla adjusted her blazer outside the headquarters of Kong Holdings Group. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear. From anticipation. 3 years of business school. 2 internships. 1 dream. This moment. Inside, the receptionist, a petite woman with perfect hair and a too polite smile, looked Nyla up and down with barely concealed surprise. "You're here for the executive assistant position?" The tone suggested she'd already decided Nyla didn't belong. Nyla lifted her chin. "Yes. My appointment is at 9 o'clock. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt endless. In the waiting area sat other candidates, all fitting the same mold Nyla clearly broke: pale skin, straight hair, demure expressions. She smoothed her natural curls and refused to shrink. A stern-looking man appeared. "Miss Brooks. Mr. Kong will see you now." The office door opened into a space that screamed power, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, and behind a massive black desk sat Kang Jae-sung himself. The photos in business magazines hadn't done him justice. Sharp cheekbones. Dark eyes that seemed to see through lies. An aura that made the air feel electric. He didn't look up immediately. When he finally did, something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe. Or recognition of something he didn't expect to find. "You're not what I anticipated," he said, voice deep and controlled. "Disappointed?" Nyla asked, settling into the chair across from him without waiting for permission. His lips twitched, almost forming a smile. Intrigued. The next 20 minutes should have been standard questions. Instead, it turned into verbal sparring. He challenged every answer, pushed every qualification, tested every boundary. But Nyla came prepared for war. "My investors prefer someone more traditional," he said finally, leaning back. "Your investors aren't running your office," Nyla countered. "You are. And from what I've researched, you've never let anyone else make your decisions." He stood abruptly and moved to the window. The morning light cast shadows across his profile like a blade. "Everyone else who's worked for me quits within 3 months," Nyla said, standing too. She stepped closer, close enough to smell his expensive cologne. "They couldn't handle you." His gaze sharpened. "But I can," she added. "I can handle anything you throw at me, Mr. Kong." He turned fully. The intensity in his eyes stole her breath. "Be careful what you promise," he said quietly. "I don't make promises I can't keep." The space between them crackled, dangerous, electric. His phone buzzed, breaking it. "The job is yours," he said suddenly. "Start tomorrow. 7 sharp." Nyla blinked. "Don't you need to check references?" "I know what I want when I see it," he interrupted, gaze never leaving her face. "My driver will email you the contract." That evening, Nyla called her best friend Tony Brooks from her small apartment in Mapo Heights. "Girl," Nyla said, breathless, "I got the job. Kong Holdings. The one with that scary hot CEO everyone whispers about." Tony groaned. "Nyla, be careful." "I heard things." "He's not scary," Nyla lied, pulse quickening as she remembered his stare. "Just intense." "They say he's connected to dangerous people," Tony warned. "Like underworld dangerous." Nyla dismissed it until she read the contract. Confidentiality clauses that felt excessive. Strict penalties. Non-disclosure language that sounded like a threat disguised as legal writing. And the salary? Triple what she expected. The next morning came too fast. Nyla dressed carefully, professional but not boring. A deep purple dress that complemented her skin like royalty. The office was already buzzing. Eyes followed her as she moved toward the executive floor. Jae-sung was on a call, speaking rapid Korean, but his eyes tracked her as she sat up at the desk outside his office. When he finished, he appeared in her doorway. "First rule," he said without preamble. "Everything you see or hear on this floor stays here. Break that rule, and there will be consequences." "Understood." "Understood." "Second rule. When I'm in meetings with certain associates, you lock the outer door. No one enters, regardless of who they claim to be." The way he said associates made Nyla's mind flash to Tony's warning. "Third rule," he stepped closer. Nyla had to tilt her head back to keep eye contact. "Never lie to me." "I don't lie," Nyla said firmly. "Everyone lies." "Then you hired the wrong person." Something shifted in his expression: heat, interest, a spark. "We'll see," he murmured. The first week blurred into scheduling, calls, and systems. Nyla discovered Jae-sung worked 18-hour days, barely ate, and remembered everything like a machine. She also noticed things that didn't fit a normal executive. Late-night visitors using private entrances. Calls in languages she didn't recognize. A security detail that moved like trained operatives. Friday evening, she was organizing files alone, humming quietly with earbuds in. A warm hand touched her shoulder and she jumped. "Sorry," Jae-sung said, not looking sorry at all. "You stayed late." "There was a lot to organize," she said. The previous assistants left things a mess. "They were inefficient," he agreed, not moving back. "You're different. Because I'm organized. Because you're not afraid." Nyla turned to face him fully. Mistake. He was too close. The office suddenly felt too small. "Should I be afraid?" she asked. "Most people are." "I'm not most people." His hand rose as if to touch her face, then stopped restrained. "No," he said softly. "You're not." His phone buzzed. His expression darkened instantly. "Go home," he ordered. "Now." "Did I do something?" "Now, Nyla." At the elevator, the head of security, Director Beck, a mountain of a man, waited. "I'll drive you home, Miss Brooks." "That's not necessary." "Mr. Kang's orders." In the car, Beck finally spoke as they arrived at Mapo Heights. "Miss Brooks, Mr. Kang values very few things in this world. The ones he values, he protects fiercely." The weekend passed. No word from Jae-sung. Monday morning, Nyla arrived to find warm coffee from her favorite cafe already on her desk. Jae-sung saw her through the glass and nodded once. A silent apology. Days turned into a new rhythm. He kept distance, but his attention never wandered. He noticed everything: her perfume, her mood, her lunch, her silence. Tony warned her over lunch. "You're playing with fire. The way he looks at you is not professional." "He barely looks at me," Nyla lied. "Girl," Tony hissed. "He tracks you like a predator." That afternoon, an American investor named Evan Cole arrived, smooth charm, wandering eyes. "I didn't expect Mr. Kang to have such beautiful staff," he said, holding Nyla's hand too long. "Miss Brooks is my executive assistant," Jae-sung said, voice cold enough to freeze hell. "And she's busy." But Evan lingered anyway. "How about dinner?" he said to Nyla. "I could show you the real Hanseong." "I'm quite familiar with Hanseong," Nyla said politely. "Thank you." Evan leaned in. "Come on. A beautiful woman shouldn't eat alone." "She doesn't." Jae-sung stood in his doorway, and the temperature dropped. After Evan left, Jae-sung remained rigid, hands clenched. "I handled it," Nyla said softly. "He touched you." It was a handshake. "He held your hand for 7 seconds." His eyes flashed. 7 seconds too long. That possessiveness should have frightened her. Instead, heat curled low in her stomach. "Why do you care?" she whispered. He crossed to her desk in 3 strides, caging her in. "You know why." "This is inappropriate," she breathed. "Everything about how I feel is inappropriate," he admitted. "And it doesn't change the fact that seeing another man near you makes me want to commit violence." Nyla's voice dropped. "Say my name again." "We can't." The phone rang. He pulled back like a man dragging himself from hunger. The caller ID in Korean made his expression turn lethal. "Lock the door," he ordered. "Do not open it for anyone." An hour later, he emerged with a disheveled suit and red knuckles. "Cancel my afternoon meetings." "Are you hurt?" "Cancel them." Not until you let me see your hand. He turned slowly. You're giving me orders now? Someone needs to. Nyla grabbed the first aid kit. Sit. He complied. She cleaned the split skin across his knuckles, the silence loud. Who is that? She asked. Someone who won't be a problem anymore. That's not an answer. It's all you're getting. She bandaged him and didn't let go. The rumors about you, what you really do, she said quietly. If they were true, would it matter? He studied her. If they were true, he said, would you run? Nyla looked into the darkness in his eyes, danger, violence, restraint barely holding. I don't know, she admitted. But I wouldn't lie. A slow exhale. At least you didn't lie. A week later, everything changed. Nyla worked late. The executive floor was empty except security. Footsteps made her look up. 3 men stood in the doorway. Well-dressed. Cold eyes. Miss Brooks, the leader said, accent faint. We need to speak to Mr. Kong. He's not in. We'll wait. They stepped in without invitation. Nyla's hand drifted toward her phone. One man noticed. I wouldn't do that. The building has security. The man smiled. Who do you think let us in? Fear crawled up her spine, but Nyla kept her face calm. What do you want? Mr. Kang has something that belongs to my employer. We're here to collect. I don't know anything about his business dealings. Pretty little thing, the man murmured, smile never touching his eyes. I'm sure he tells you everything. The lights flickered. Then the door exploded inward. Jae-sung stood there like a storm given human form. But this wasn't the controlled businessman she knew. This was someone lethal. You made a mistake coming here, he said in Korean, then switched to English. You made a bigger mistake approaching her. Violence erupted. Jae-sung moved like a weapon, precise, brutal. 2 men hit the floor in seconds. The third backed toward the window, terrified. Tell your boss, Jae-sung said calmly, if he comes near anyone in my organization again, especially her, I will destroy everything he built. The man fled. When the door shut, Jae-sung turned to Nyla. The ice in his eyes melted into concern. Did they hurt you? No. He crossed to her, cupping her face, checking for injuries. You're shaking. Who are you? Nyla demanded. Who are they? His hands dropped. He stepped back. You should go home. No, anger replaced fear. Not after that. I deserve the truth. The truth puts you in danger. I'm already in danger. They came because of you. He flinched like she slapped him. You're right, he said quietly. This is my fault. She opened her mouth. You're fired. The words hit like a death sentence. You can't fire me for asking questions. I can do whatever I want. It's my company. You're a coward, she snapped, grabbing her bag. You're not afraid of them. You're afraid of letting anyone matter. She reached the door. His voice stopped her, so soft she almost missed it. You matter, he said. You matter too much. That's why you have to go. Nyla didn't turn around. If she had, she would have seen devastation in his eyes. The next morning, her account showed a deposit that made her eyes water. 3 months severance. Plus a bonus big enough to change her life. Tony came over with wine and sympathy. Maybe it's for the best, Tony said. He sounds dangerous. He protected me, Nyla argued, though she wasn't sure why she was defending him. After putting you in danger. 3 days passed. On the 4th day, Director Beck appeared at her door. Mr. Kang requests your presence. I don't work for him. Please, Beck said quietly. It's important. Against her better judgment, Nyla went. But Beck didn't drive to the office. He drove to Hanol Private Medical Center in Shanghai District. Nyla's heart stopped. In a VIP room, Jae-sung lay pale, bandaged, connected to monitors. Nyla sank into the chair beside him. What did you do? She whispered. His eyes opened slowly. You came. What happened? Unfinished business, he said. It's finished now. You idiot, she hissed, tears threatening. You absolute idiot. His weak hand found hers insistent. They won't come for you again, he whispered. Any of them? Understanding dawned, horrifying. You went after them. I protect what's mine. I'm not yours, Nyla snapped. You fired me. Worst decision I ever made, he admitted. But necessary. You deserve better than this life. Nyla leaned closer. What if I don't want better? She whispered. What if I want you? His eyes widened, heart monitor betraying him. You don't get to decide for me, Nyla said. Explain what you are. Explain what you do. He was quiet for a long time. Then haltingly, he told her everything. The family business that wasn't just business. The empire built on shadow deals and necessary violence. The balance between legitimate power and underworld rule. I'm not a good man, he finished. I'm selfish. Possessive. Violent. I know, Nyla said simply. He stared. I'm not naive, Jae-sung, she continued. Late-night visitors. Soldier security. The way Beck calls you, sir. I knew. I stayed anyway. Why? He whispered. Nyla leaned closer until their mouths were inches apart. Because underneath all that darkness, you're the man who brings me coffee. Who notices when I skip lunch? Who looks at me like I'm precious? His eyes burned. You're precious, he said fiercely. You're everything. Then stop pushing me away. He studied her, then tugged her closer. Last chance to run, he murmured. Because once you choose me, there's no safe exit. Nyla didn't move. I already told you, she whispered. I can handle you. He kissed her, gentle, careful, still full of hunger. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Come back, he whispered. Come back to me. No more pretending. Nyla returned to Kong Holdings 3 days later. The official explanation was that she'd been promoted. The title, Special Operations Director, meant nothing on paper and everything in practice. The whispers spread faster than the elevator doors could close. Kang Jae-sung had finally found a woman he couldn't intimidate into leaving. Their first morning back, Nyla placed a slim folder on his desk. The Takeda ledger needs review. There are inconsistencies in the last quarter. Jae-sung didn't look at the folder. He closed the distance between them, shut the office door, and pulled her into him. This is still a workplace, she protested weakly. My workplace, he murmured against her mouth. My rules. She shook her head, smiling despite herself. Impossible man. He rested his forehead against hers. You make me that way. Happiness, Nyla learned quickly, came with a price in Jae-sung's world. The news reached ears that didn't approve of his growing power or his growing attachment. If Kang Jae-sung had a weakness now, it had a name and a face. It started small. A black sedan following her home, intercepted by Director Beck's team. Strange phone calls that ended the moment she answered. Emails traced and shut down before she even saw them. Then it escalated. Nyla woke one night to the sound of breaking glass. Before she could scream, a hand covered her mouth. Don't make a sound and you won't get hurt. The man didn't know about the panic button Jae-sung had insisted she wear. Within minutes, her apartment flooded with armed security. The would-be kidnapper was subdued, bleeding and terrified. The message was clear. She was a target. At the hospital, Jae-sung paced like a caged animal. You're moving in with me. That's not negotiable, she snapped. He dropped to his knees beside her bed, eyes raw. They put their hands on you. They made you afraid in your own home. I will not let that happen again. The fear in his eyes broke through her resistance. Okay, she whispered. But I'm not giving up my independence. He smiled grimly. We'll discuss that later. They both knew he'd won. The black glass penthouse was massive steel, glass, art that probably cost more than her entire childhood neighborhood. Yet Jae-sung immediately began changing it. Color where she liked it. Her favorite food stocked without asking. One guest room converted into an office just for her. I'm not changing anything, he said when she protested. I'm making it ours. Domestic life with a mafia king was intoxicating. Morning coffee together while reviewing schedules. Late dinners cooked side by side when they escaped early. Falling asleep to the city's glow and waking with armed security outside the door. One evening, Jae-sung came home to find Nyla cooking in one of his shirts, music playing softly. He watched her for a long moment, something unguarded crossing his face. How long are you going to stand there? She asked without turning. Forever, if you'll let me. She turned, spoon in hand, breath catching at the look in his eyes. You've ruined me, he said quietly. You make me want a future. I didn't know you believed in those. I didn't, he admitted. Until you. When he told her he loved her, it wasn't gentle. It was desperate, consuming, terrifyingly sincere. She loved him too. Despite everything. The universe, of course, took that as an invitation. The photos leaked on a Tuesday morning. Nyla entering the penthouse. Them kissing in his office. Her on the balcony wearing his shirt. The headlines were vicious. Racial. Cruel. She broke down in the bathroom, phone shattered against the wall. Jae-sung gathered her into his arms. Let them talk, he said. Your reputation can burn. I don't care. The board called an emergency meeting. Nyla insisted on attending. 12 men in suits stared at her like she was an infection. This relationship is unacceptable, the chairman said. Inappropriate how? Nyla asked sweetly. Because I'm black? Or because I'm not afraid of him? Silence. She laid out the numbers calmly. Productivity up. Deals closed. Staff satisfaction improved. Jae-sung stood. Anyone who has a problem with Nyla has a problem with me. You'd burn everything for her? The chairman asked. I'd burn it all down, Jae-sung replied. And rebuild. They backed down. But his enemies didn't. At the White Orchid Gala, young Tae-ho approached with a smile that never reached his eyes. He challenged Nyla openly. She shut him down publicly. The lights went out moments later. When they came back on, Nyla was gone. Jae-sung lost control. She woke zip-tied to a chair in a warehouse. Kim's men underestimated her. That was their mistake. By the time Jae-sung burst through the doors with Director Beck and his team, Nyla had already bloodied 2 of them with a broken chair leg. The rescue was violent. Final. When Jae-sung held her afterward. Shaking, she kissed him hard. I love a monster, she told him. And I love you, he said like a vow. His father arrived that night. Chairman Kang Sung-chul studied Nyla like a battlefield. You're the cause of this chaos, he said. I prefer the word change, Nyla replied. After a long silence, the old man nodded once. Then we will do this properly. The wedding must be traditional. Jae-sung proposed that night on one knee, with a black diamond ring he'd been carrying for weeks. She said yes without hesitation. The wedding was massive. Ancient customs. Powerful families. Enemies watching. The reception turned into a massacre. Masked shooters. Screams. Blood. Nyla killed to protect him. He killed to protect her. They escaped to the mountain residence, bloodied but alive. I regret nothing, Nyla told him that night. Not you. Not this. You are my queen, he said. Perfectly mine. The fallout was swift and surgical. Jae-sung dismantled enemy families without firing a shot, financial ruin, legal traps, betrayals. Nyla stepped fully into power. When prosecutor Yoon Min-jae threatened them, Nyla outplayed him legally, exposing corruption that forced his quiet retirement. On their first anniversary, Nyla discovered she was pregnant. Jae-sung was terrified in a way she'd never seen. When a sniper tried and failed to kill her months later, young Tae-ho died that same night. Officially of natural causes. Their daughter, Ari Kang, was born early and screaming and perfect. 3 years passed. The empire evolved. More legitimate. Still feared. One afternoon, Ari ran into Jae-sung's office during a meeting with dangerous men. He lifted her onto his lap without missing a beat. Gentlemen, Nyla said calmly from the doorway, shall we continue, or does my daughter disturb you? No one dared answer. That night, they stood on the balcony overlooking Hanseong City. No regrets? Jae-sung asked quietly. I could have lived 1,000 ordinary lives, Nyla said. Instead, I chose you. Their daughter cried from inside. They went to her together. The world had whispered about Kang Jae-sung 12 inches, about the size that sent women running. But Nyla hadn't run. She'd conquered. She'd claimed. She'd transformed a monster into a man who could love without losing his edge. Love hadn't erased the darkness. It had joined it and ruled.